got the top coat done now on the body of the car, so that's looking quite good now. Unfortunately, I have run out of paint, which is a bit of a shame. These cans are only, I think, about 100 ml. Not quite big enough to do a car of this size, unfortunately. I thought it would have been, but unfortunately it turns out not to be. So I've just had to order another tin because frustratingly I've still got the bonnet to do again. That's only had one coat, and the rear valance as well, that's only had one coat, so I've got to go out and I've had to purchase another tin just to do those two parts, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, the paint on the car is looking really good. I'm not sure whether you're actually going to see the metallic coming through that at all or not, but it does look really nice in person, and it's actually quite nice paint as well. It does lay down really smoothly as well, so I'm really happy with that. So now that that bit's done, the next bit for me to look at is the engine. I'm going to start working on that next, and then hopefully once that's done, I can then sort of move on to the other bits. I just need to really let this paintwork dry off properly now before I start masking it off and doing all of the stripes. I'm not really going to be able to do the stripes yet anyway until I've got that done. The paint hopefully should be within the next couple of days. I did order that on express delivery, so hopefully that should be with me in a day or so. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment. So I will come back to you in a couple of minutes with all of the engine parts that we need to start looking at. Got the main body, or not body, sorry, but the main parts of the engine put together now. So that's looking quite nice. We've got that big black bit on the top there, but yeah, it's not looking too bad. There is a few little issues along the way with this, really. I think it's because it's such an old tool set that they've used for this, that you know, it doesn't fit together as well as maybe it should do. Certainly doesn't fit together as well as the Mustang did. But that's not a problem. We've got rid of most of the lines. The top part of the engine around this area here, where you're not going to see anything, I'm not really that worried about, but underneath we've got all of the parts sorted out. Now all of the parts that are on this engine are going to be exactly the same colour. That's why I've put it together completely. What I'm going to need to do afterwards is then just go in and paint the gearbox a completely different colour. But I will be using this one, which is the light gunmetal grey, just to really tie it in with the stripes that are going on the car and a few other bits and pieces. Pretty much like I did with the Mustang. I'm just going to sort of tie in, sort of keep the colours really down to a minimum, or keep the colour palette down to a minimum, really, and sort of tying colours all over the car as well. And I'm actually thinking about doing the same, the wheels in the same colour as well, actually. I think that should make it quite interesting. So the next job for this really is to get the engine painted. Now one of the things that I always do with mine really is, because you've got that nice big hole at the base of the engine there, I just stick a paintbrush in the bottom of it, which enables me then to really just go along and paint the engine, which is quite cool, really. So I'm just going to start the process of getting this painted, and then all of the other bits I'll just paint separately, and as we go along, just get those added on as well. But yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. Engine's not looking too bad. Hopefully it'll look a lot better once we got some colour on it. So as soon as I've got some more work done to this wee beastie, I will come back to you. Welcome back, and we've got some success. We've got quite a bit of the engine done now, and it's starting to look really good. I was actually starting an update earlier on, and then didn't realise that the camera had run out of battery, so I was sitting there just waffling to myself, which is no surprise. I normally do that anyway. But yeah, we've got quite far on the engine now. We've complete step one, apart from a decal that needs to go just there on the rocker cover. We've kind of finished step one. We've just got step two to go, which is this little part here, which I'm not really sure what it is, so let's have a look. This is 96 and 97, so it's the, oh, it's 95 and 96, so it's the starter motor. So there you go. So I just got to get the starter motor on, which should go, I believe, just around that area. If I get that in camera, the starter motor will go just there. And then that'll be step two completed, and then it'll be on to step three, which is the ignition coil and the HT leads, etc. And then that, as it stands, will be pretty much well it, to be fair, until the engine is actually in the engine bay itself. We've gone for the TS42, which is the light gunmetal grey. As I've done with the Mustang that I built, I'm kind of trying to get everything colour coded, so the engine is going to be the same colour as the stripes, you know, just to sort of, you know, reduce the palette of colours, so to speak, just to try and keep it a little bit more simple. But yeah, the engine's not looking too bad itself. If we bring it up to the camera, hopefully if we can grab it in the right areas, you can see there is a nice little metallic sheen coming through that, which is quite nice. The gearbox, I've left the same colour really as the actual main body of the engine. Reason I've done that is because, well, why the hell not? Chip Foose does it as well, so if it's good enough Chip Foose, it's good enough for me. One thing I hadn't noticed, and I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to get this in on screen, but they've even gone to the point where you can actually see some writing on the side of the gearbox there, which is kind of cool. So yeah, the only thing that's left to do really on this is get the starter motor on, get that little decal on there, and then we've also got the little decal that goes on the oil filter. Once the engine's in, we then got to get all the air filters, etc. on board as well, and that'd be it. So the next step for me really now is to get the start motor on, get the ignition coils on, etc. And then this bad boy is going to be sort of almost finished. So I'm kind of liking the way that's turning out. And then if we actually get the body of the car, just to give you a bit of an idea of how the stripes and whatnot are going to go with each other. So if we just get the engine, put the engine on there like that, you can see that they do go quite nicely together. By the time that they've been painted, or sorry, by the time the stripes have gone on and then it's been glossed over, they should settle in quite nicely and look quite good together. I kind of thinking that with the wheels I might actually do those the same colour as the stripes as well, rather than just leaving them chrome. I think that'll look pretty good. And then again, the little stripes that we've got that go in these holes here, kind of do those the same colour as the bodywork as well. Just kind of helps to tie everything in a little bit really. So that's kind of that bit done. Good news is I got my fresh tin of paint in. That's just come in a few minutes ago, so I'm just going to wait for that to warm up a bit, because that is cold. It's been out on a delivery truck for the past couple of days, so that's a little bit cold sitting around in warehouses and whatnot. I'll wait for that to warm up a little bit and then stick it in some warm water just to help warm it up a little bit further. The other thing that we've got going on at the moment as well is the brake booster cylinder, which is this little bit here. That's been completed. That's in gloss black, and then we've got the brake cylinder there as well, with the reservoir, or the brake fluid reservoir on top. Now I have noticed that most of these are kind of anodized steel effect, really, where they look slightly goldish. So what I've done with this is I've painted it in gold leaf. I've then gone over it with or dry brushed on some titanium gold, and I will dry brush some silver on there as well to see if I can kind of replicate that effect. The reservoir has been done in white. The caps I'll do in yellow, I think, and the straps I'll just do those in a matte black colour. But that's not looking too bad. It's looking okay so far. Hopefully that should look pretty good when it's done. I mean, this will eventually sit in there. Oop, that's upside down, I think. There we go. So that's going to sit in there eventually, like so. And then that whole thing will then sit on the firewall. If we can get the thing in. Trickier than you first appear. So that will sit on the firewall just like so. So that'll look quite cool. There is another bit that sits on the firewall somewhere around there as well, and we've got some holes for the heater hoses to go through into there as well, which are made of sort of rubber. So yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. So it's just got one more coat of paint to go on the actual body of the car itself, then that can just sit off to one side and continue drying, or to let it cure properly. As soon as I've got all the little bits done to the engine that I need to do, I'm going to move on to the chassis. I'm going to need to mask off the wheel wells there, because everything else on here is going to need to be done in matte black, including the underside. Again, if anybody has got any bright ideas about how I can sort of get batteries in there or whatever, how I can get power running into that rather than actually using a plug and play system, that would be great, because I was thinking of maybe a little on off switch on the base there of the fuel tank. I don't know whether we can actually sort of do it so we can just use this fuel tank really as a compartment for the batteries, where you can just sort of like undo a screw or something and then just flip it open. I don't know. So if anybody's got any bright ideas about that, please let me know, because I don't really just want to use a plug and play 9-volt sort of power system that I do with all my other builds, or the Star Trek builds. So it'd be interesting to find out if there is another way of doing that. But yeah, that's kind of where we are at the moment. So I'm just going to crack on and get the exhaust manifolds done, get them glued into place. And then once they're done and the HT leads and the ignition coil was in place, that's the engine pretty much all buttoned up. So as soon as I've got those few bits done, I will come back to you. I found a little bit of an issue with the instructions on this car, to be fair, specifically on number 2, because on here it does actually tell you to put the HT leads in, and then once you've got the HT leads in, you then put the manifolds in. Now there's only one problem with that. Once you've put the the HT leads in, you can't actually then get the manifolds on. The main reason being is because the only way that you can get the manifolds on this, that's how, if we look on there, that's how they ask you to do the HT leads to begin with. But if we flip it around to the other side, where we've got the manifold in, you'll notice that the HT leads actually fit in around the manifold itself, which is a bit weird in itself. I would have thought if that was that happened in real life, they would actually melt, but there you go. But because you have to crisscross the manifolds around in place like that, the only way that you can actually get the manifold on is to actually take the wires out of the way and then put the manifold on and then put the HT leads in, which means that what I've got to do, as I've done on that side, is remove the HT leads and then put them in again. This is a bit of a pain in the bum really, but never mind. I suppose, you know, we find these things out as we go along. So that's the state of affairs with that. That's what I've got to do. The other good news is the fact that the paint come in for the model. This has now had 2 coats of the candy lime green in there on the body, and that's looking good. It's not really glossy at the moment, but it does look quite glossy. Happy with the way that that's finished. I'm not sure whether you're going to be able to see the metallic finish in that at all. Let's see if we can get that a bit closer to the camera. There you go. You might be able to see there's a bit of dust on it at the moment. It's still curing. Hopefully you can see, yeah, you can just about see the metallic from that angle. So that's all of the main parts that have been painted in the metallic green, so that's great news. So I'm just going to let that cure now before I continue on that side of it. I just need to get the stripes down on that now. Once the stripes are down, I'll then be able to clear coat it with the Alclad gloss, and that will then give it a really good sort of deep shine to it, give it a glass-like effect. Once that's done, I'll then be able to go around all the chrome parts and get those sorted out, and that should look pretty good then. The chrome would just need to be left to dry for a few days as well after that, and then I'll just be able to go on to the other bits and get those sorted out. Somebody has actually suggested with the fuel tank is just to remove the fuel tank and use magnets to actually keep put that keep that in place once we've done, because then we can store a 9-volt battery in there, get the little on-off switch on there as well at some point, someplace on there, and we'll be able to just sort of keep that in place with some magnets. So I will look into that actually, because that sounds like a really good feasible idea. So I'm happy with that suggestion. Can't remember the guy's name actually, to be quite honest, but thank you very much for the suggestion. That is much appreciated. It just means that I'm just going to need to cut that fuel tank out really, which is no biggie, because what I can do is on the inside around this edge here is just glue some strips of styrene on there to form a lip to put magnets on there. So when we put the fuel tank back in with a couple of magnets glued to it, they'll be able to line up to the magnets on this side, and then we can keep that in place. So that should be good. Just need to work out how to sort of go around that part the best way really. But that's where we are at the moment. Started working on the interior as well actually, and as you can see we've got some colour in there. Personally believe that shade of red is a bit too dark, so what I'm going to do is, I mean that's only just had one layer on there anyway, so I'm just going to lighten that down a bit, because by the time I've actually put the semi-matte lacquer over the top of that, or varnish should I say, sorry, that's going to sort of darken it down a bit anyway. So what I just need to do is just mix a ball paint up and just darken that down slightly. Oh sorry, lighten it up, and then that'll be good to go. We've started working on all the door handles and stuff like that, so I just need to start working on the interior side of it a little bit more, and also need to start thinking about the lighting as well for the headlamps and the spotlights and the tail lights and the side markers as well. But we're actually starting to make some progress. As I say, I'm just going to get the manifolds finished off today with the wires, and then hopefully we should be okay. The other thing as well actually is, if we look at these instructions here, it does give you the lengths that you need from the wire that comes in the pack. Now don't think to yourself, oh great, I got a huge length there of wire in the pack, so I'll be alright, I can cut those a little bit longer just in case. I cut mine to exactly the same length of those, so you've got 2 of each, apart from number 9 where you've only got 1. And by the time I got down to number 9, it was just enough actually on that one without the need to cut it. So you only get enough in the kit there to actually do all of those. There's no spare wire left over, so that was quite uncanny. So yeah, don't think that you're going to end up with some spare wire afterwards, because you're not going to. Once I've got the wire sorted out on this side, then, and it's all dried in again, I'll then just sort those wires out and tidy them up a little bit, and make sure that they look a lot tidier than they are at the moment. But that's kind of where we are at the moment. It's starting to look good now, so I'm kind of happy with the progress that I've made on this so far. So I'm going to continue, get that little bit done, get the last couple of little bits done for the engine. There is a couple of decals that need to go on there, and then I can just put this to bed for a while, and then once the engine's mounted into the chassis, I can then sort of put the finishing touches to it, and it'll look like a proper engine then, which is good. So yeah, I will catch up with you in the next video. I think that's going to be part 4. Yeah, it will be part 4. So yeah, I'll catch up with you in part 4. So until then, thanks for watching. Please do take care.